Twalalanda kufunda bantu balekyo kupatana kumayanda pamachitone mitundo yonse palamute mwandu kumayanda pamachitone mitundo yonse palamute mwane kubeji potene sasa palamute mwane kubeji potene sasa.
Good evening, Zambia. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on what time you're watching us or where you are watching us this evening, this early evening's hour. This is Frank Saliki from TV Bakwetu. If you can just let us know where you're joining us today, where you are, what part of Zambia you are in, what part of Africa you're in, what part of Europe you're in, what part of the world you're in, where you're joining us this evening. And also, don't forget, please share the broadcast, share your broadcast, call your friends, call your neighbor, share the broadcast, like the page wherever you're watching us, whether it's a Bakwetu page, whether it's Masheka Shambatua's page, whatever page you're watching this broadcast for, if you can like and share the page. So it's been nearly a year. It's been nearly a year. It's been nearly a year. It's been a year since His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema has been the Republican president for our beloved country. And for me, really, it's been a time to just reflect on a few things and reflect what has actually happened, what has actually changed, what needs to be changed, what does a country still need clarity on in terms of policies? Are there certain things that haven't changed? I'm going to start off. Let's just look at the things that have changed. We were promised jobs. Okay, so in the campaign, it was all going to be about we're going to be creating jobs, and there have been a lot of people who argued they've not been enough. They've not been enough jobs. They've not seen enough growth. They've not been. They've not seen the amount of change that they expected. Now let's evaluate this. We over 30,400 teachers have been recruited. That's the largest amount of teachers that have been recruited in one go. No other government has done this. That's the largest amount of teachers that have been recruited in one go. And in doing that, the government created 30,400 jobs in one go. And also we saw the recruitment of 11,000 medical staff. That was promised that that was going to happen. That was in the first budget. And there was this debate and there was talk whether this was going to happen, whether this is going to be come to fruition, or whether it was just talk. People were talking about how ambitious was this budget. When we look at numbers, it's a 30,000 teachers. Everybody, a lot of people said that is a massive amount of number to recruit in one go. And people spoke about the new Dawn government being overly ambitious. To be fair, I looked at that budget. When I looked at that budget, I was excited and nervous, and I thought that is very, very ambitious what they're trying to do there. But we've seen over the last few months, the recruitment of teachers has happened. We've seen over the last few months, the recruitment of medical staff has happened. We've seen over the last few months, a deal has been agreed with IMF. And there have been a lot of people in opposition who have been saying, oh, but this deal in IMF, the previous regime have said they walked away from the IMF deal. They never walked away from the IMF deal. They failed to satisfy IMF. Hence, that deal was never given. The Akahinde Hichilema administration came and satisfied IMF's deal. They explained how they're going to use the money. They explained where the money is going to go. And that's the thing, that's the difference that we have. We've got an explanation of where the money is going to go to. We got a creation of teachers' jobs. And I know a lot of people, there's some people who came up and said, but these teachers have got no houses. Excuse me. We have to go away from this thinking that the government has to give you jobs and they also have to provide accommodation. We have to go away from that. It's about time we take that into our own hands. I think the president himself said it nicely. He said, landlords have given you tenants. And that's the most important thing, because what happens is when there's creation of jobs, the people who have been employed are able to spend, and that income then spreads across everywhere they go. And especially the fact that you get teachers going into rural areas. I might live in England now, but I went to boarding school in rural Zambia. I went to Mutanda High School on the outskirts of Solwezi, and I knew the impact that the teachers had in those rural communities. That the economy of the Mutanda Mission area functioned because you had enough teachers who could buy things. People were able to create businesses in those areas because there were teachers who were employed and they were able to buy things. And I remember that living in Mutanda, being in Mutanda, the people who were the main spenders were the teachers. And us who were in boardings when we came back, we're the people who really made that economy around Mutanda Mission area to function. So when teachers are being posted, that economic power is being spread across the country, and the teachers are able to spend it wherever they are. And I've been really impressed that the majority of teachers were sent to rural areas. That is the only way you can spend. That's the only way you can spread economic growth across the country. We talked about the Mwanawasa era. What we saw in the Mwanawasa era was something interesting. So the economy was stable, wasn't it? We saw the highest growth of the Zambian economy in the 2010, just before President Mwanawasa passed away. We saw a massive growth in the economy, but it never translated into money in the pockets. It never did that. I was growing up in Luansha at the time, 2003. If you lived in Luansha in 2001 to 2004, 2005, I lived in 2004. I went to Mutanda, and I remember at the time it was really difficult. The economy was doing well. We didn't have food at home. Okay, on face value, the economy was doing well, but we did not have money in the pockets. The kwacha was doing very, very well against the dollar, but we did not have money in the pocket because that money was not spread out across the country. This is where CDF comes in. We've seen a rise in CDF, 1.5 million kwacha to 26 million, 26.5. million million kwacha in CDF. Now, there have been a lot of people who have argued that is a lot of money, right? And that argument for me is very, very preposterous in itself. What do the villages need? They need so much work. What do the schools in the village need? They need desks. They need new school blocks being. They need new classroom blocks to be built. They need new toilets to be built. They need all these other things to be built. And somebody says, no, that's too much money. If you were asking me, if it's 26 million, I would say it's a start. It's a good start. I wouldn't say it's too much money. It's people need those facilities. People need those facilities, and people need to see the growth. People need to see the change, and to see 26 million kwacha being put into constituencies for CDF. That is brilliant. That's good news for you and me. That's good news for an ordinary Zambian on the street. That's good news for people who live outside Lusaka to know they can have development in their area. They can take development in Shangombo. They can take development in Isoka. They can take development in Mwinilunga. They can take development in Chavuma. They can take development in Kapirimposhi. They can take development in Pongwe. They can take development everywhere with that fund, if that fund is used properly. So for the government to say we're going to increase this to 26 million, that's very good. They want to ensure that every constituency benefits for growth. Every constituency benefits in terms of growth. So that is very important. They have identified that. So there is an aim to decentralize this power, decentralize, to ensure that all the decisions are not being made in Lusaka, to ensure that everything that you need to do does not have to go for approval in Lusaka. So that is very good. Decisions can be made quicker. Decisions can be made at constitutional level. Decisions can be made by we the people, by us saying this is what we need in our country now. And unfortunately, a lot of people have not really bought into CDF. A lot of people have not really engaged in some areas. We've seen a lot of engagement. Listening to the Mr. Panzanquilimbo's program, which you can get every Tuesday at 21 hours. He interviews a lot of MPs. He interviews a lot of MPs, and he talks about with people from the constituencies, which is very important to hear what is going on in the constituencies and to see what a lot of people are doing. Now we have to look then at what other things are really working well. Decentralization is working well. We've seen the recruitment of teachers. We have seen we've seen the recruitment of teachers. We've seen the recruitment of medical staff. All these other things are going really, really well. But a lot of people still feel unsatisfied. And I think we were used to the routine of where every government comes in, they have to give you a job. Okay. I know somebody in government, so they can give me a job. And I think we have seen there's a move away in the current regime, and it has upset a lot of people because there's certain people who are campaigning. They were campaigning because they thought they're going to get a job. Now they're not getting a job. Now they're thinking, you know what? Because we're used to that routine of I know somebody and I'm going to get somebody. Now we're not getting it. We're not getting it. A lot of people are disappointed. It is a right way to go. It is a right way to go. We need to get to a point where people have the same opportunities. We need to get to a position where if you apply for a job, you've got an equal opportunity as somebody important applying for a job. We need to get to a point where the mayor's daughter or son does not jump over everyone else. That you've got the same amount of opportunity to get a particular job as a mayor's son or daughter, as an MP's son or daughter, the same opportunities. So really going away from that going away from that framework of who do you know, not what you know, is very important for the growth of our economy. Why? Because what you have when you're operating in an economy where you get something because of who you don't get the right skills. You don't get people who are skilled. The people who've got the right skills are left out because they don't know the important people in power. People were recruited in the army not because they were going to make very good soldiers, now because they were related to a general, they're related to a lieutenant. So the most skillful person who could have, somebody could have been a more skillful soldier in our country, was then left out because they didn't have connections. So we need to run an economy where people where you get with the right people, with the right skills, with the right training, and that are able to deliver on the job. That's what's going to grow an economy. So on that one, I give I give the new Dawn a 10 out of 10 to make sure we get the right skills, the right people. Now we got to look at certain things. There are certain things that the country of really need some clarity on. Before the elections, we remember this. There was a matter of gassing. And it's almost like it's gone away in the media. Nobody talks about it. 50 something people died during that period of time due to gassing. And really, what I would like to hear from the current government is, what are we doing about gassing? What are we doing about all those gassing that went on? Who's been persecuted? How are the investigations going? Are those investigations still going, or have we dropped those investigations? Are we still looking at have we got any suspects, or those investigations are ongoing? There's a matter of the 48 houses. The 48 houses issue seem to have just vanished. Nobody's really talking about what's happening with those with that issue. I'm sure you remember. I was talking to somebody about the 48 houses. They stopped for a moment and they said, "Oh, I've almost forgotten about that ever happened." That's a problem. What I would like like some clarity on is, what happened to the 48 houses? Who really owns them? Why are the investigations going? What are we going to do? Have we, as a government, since nobody seems to be putting their hands up to that they own those houses, have the government made a decision to say they were going to confiscate those houses until the owner come up? Are those houses, can those houses be state owned? Because no one is owning up. So that would be quite important to see. Honeybee scandal. How many people are involved? How are we looking at that, investigating those things? And those are very important questions to answer to our people. And we then have to, the other point we need to explain to our people is the persecution of corruption. All those people arrested with on corruption charges. What does the prosecution involve? What does a prosecution involve? Why is it so difficult to prosecute these people? Explain to the people. Then we have to look at the money that's been stolen, that money that is in circulation somewhere. What are we going to do about that? Are we going to think about changing the currency altogether? Are we going to ensure that these people, if they have to take the money to the bank, they have to explain where the money had come from? Because we know that at the moment, the functioning part of our financial system, the way our financial system functions, is very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult to trace the movement of money. Here's a problem that we have in Zambia at the moment in terms of fighting corruption. So where I am today, let's say I run a business, okay? I say I run a business and I'm not paying any tax. So the taxman here will say, you haven't paid any tax for 3 years. And what they will do is they will contact my bank and say, we want to know if Mr. Saliki has been paying any tax, okay? And the banks are legally obliged to do that. So they will get my statements. So for example, if I had a side hustle and I was earning £3,000 a month and I haven't told the taxman about it, and every time £3,000 flows into my account, the taxman will be able to go back and say this, right, in this month you got this much money, this much money, this much money. So Mr. Saliki, you owe us this amount of tax. What I'm trying to say is that is it's digitized. So if something is digitized, you can do what? You can monitor it, you can trace it. Because the taxman can look in my bank account and say, you haven't paid tax on these £3,000 a month you've been earning. So you owe us about, we can say now it's been 5 years, you probably owe us about 10,000 in tax or something, just to give an example, because people can trace. So when it comes to fighting corruption, there's certain things that are working against us. Here where I am, a lot of people use electronic transaction. So they're either paying for something online, or they're using their debit or credit card to purchase something. You can trace that. In Zambia, a lot of people use cash. You cannot trace cash. People use cash. You cannot trace cash. Then you've got this anomaly in the financial system called mobile money. And it's almost unregulated. So people can transfer money between that system. So unless that is regulated and somebody can be able to monitor that, that's never going to happen. So when in terms of fighting corruption, a lot of people might be asking why there are no prosecutions, why there just been arrests, why there not been this and the other, because the burden of proof lies on the prosecution. The burden of proof lies on the prosecution. You can't just come in here and say, now, Weaver. You might know that. You might know that. You might know. You might say, you know what, kasadiki takakwa tene mpia. Takakwa tapone mpia. Kafumishe ya kalensha na BMW. Kafumishe kuisa. You can say that. But you have no proof of stolen. You might be 100% sure I've got no resources to afford the things that I'm affording, but you have got no proof to prove I've stolen. Because in a financial persecution, you can't say you've stolen money. You have to say in the court of law, you stole money on this day of the amount of 2 million something. So that's what we've seen. A lot of people have been arrested, and their things are being taken away, and on the suspicion they had stolen the money, because that's all they can do. So the only thing that the government can do, if I've got so many things, the only thing the government can say is the police force can say, prove this, you didn't steal this. So it's essentially what they take my stuff, they get my money, and they said, right, you're gonna have to prove where you get them. You're gonna have to prove the tax, you're gonna have to prove your receipts, you're gonna have to prove where this money came from. And once you prove you've got this money, where this money came from, then you can have your things back. So that is what is happening at the moment. The way the financial system is set up makes it difficult. I think we saw at the beginning of the New Dawn government, when the Faith Musonda issue came up and there was money found under the bed, so much, a large amount of money. Okay, now they can't prove where she got the money from. I think there was an uproar to say, why was she not prosecuted? There was no proof where that money came from. So they had to just take the money and let her go. They can't prove she's stolen the money. So essentially what has happened is the politicians who are involved are clever. They pass this money around. They got people who keep this money. So whenever somebody tries to check their bank accounts, they don't have that money in there. Whenever somebody tries to check what they have, if they've got money in their house, they do a search. They don't have that money in there, because they found the people who've kept that money for them. So that's why prosecuting of people who have stolen, the prosecuting of the PF, as so many people want to happen very quickly, it cannot happen. And my friends, it just shouldn't happen. We should never get to a point where people say, we believe you've stolen, so we're going to arrest you. That's a very dangerous road to go to, because then every person on the street who believes they've stolen something, they're going to be arrested. The other point that I thought I should touch on is the Chingola issue. I think there's been two issues here, and I was listening. I've been listening to a lot of people debate whether it was a right move or not. Should they have knocked down those houses in Chingola or not? And they've been comparing that with Forest 27. Now, the two issues that you have to think here, the two issues that you have to consider here. Okay, so the people in Chingola at large, those people, they probably did not have title deeds. Okay, they got no title deeds. So when the council, when somebody goes, this, wow, you got no title deeds, why is everybody about there? The council are easily able to go and knock those houses down. If you build in an area and you can't prove that where you built was sold by the council can come and they can knock it down, and you don't say anything about it. That is just the law. We don't say, no, we're going to give you 6 months to do that and the other. You've broken the law. You built on the land that you should not have built on. So you've broken the law. So you can't expect then the council, the authorities, to go on this long negotiating process of the people who have broken the law. Now, a lot of people said, what about people in Forest 27? It's just because they've got money and everything else, and this thing is being left. And that's why this thing is being left. Now, that's quite different. Now, hear me out. So the people who built in Forest 27, the former vice president, and a lot of other people, and a lot of other big names in the political arena, what they did is they used the council to buy that land. Yes, the land was sold to them because of who they are, but they used the council to sell that land. So then what they end up having is a land with what? A title deed. Not a forged title deed, not a fake title deed, a proper title deed from the council. Now, a title deed is a legal document to say you own that land. And everybody who legitimately owns a house in Zambia has a title deed to say it is their property. They bought the house. They went to the council and paid for that title deed. So what you have in Forest 27, is a very complicated very complicated issue, because the first thing that you have to do is investigate the council workers that were involved, and for those council workers to say, yes, we cut corners and this was illegitimately sold to them. And once that is proved, then the council can cancel those title deeds, and then they can go and knock down those houses. They can't not walk into Forest 27 and just knock those houses down, because that is going to be a very, very long legal battle that's going to go on for months, years. So it's first of all to prove where corruption occurred in that process. Once you prove where corruption occurred in that process, then you can go after. Then you can go after the people who are living in those places, and you can say, this land was illegally bought. Can you move away? But until the powers to be can prove that that land was illegally bought, they can't just go away and knock that. They can't just go away and knock down all those buildings, all those houses in there. And then I think we got a similar incident up in another part of Lusaka, and we saw a video of Mr. Garrington, but also having a discussion about how this brick wall was built and just blocked the road, crazy stuff. But it couldn't just go and knock it out. Somebody has paid for that. There's a title deed say somebody owns that, so they need to find out how that operation worked and then knock it down. So they can't just go in and knock it down. So there is that, and so there is that to consider when we debate about these other things, a fight against corruption. And I think what we have, and is frustrating a lot of people, the government is really trying to do things a proper way. We've seen so much change over the last year. We've seen people being able to practice politics as they wish. We've seen people like Chilufya Diali turn up and speak every day against the government. Nobody would have dared to come and speak. Nobody would have dared to come and speak against the government. I know Chilufya Diali can be a pain in the backside. But sometimes I sit and I watch and I say, this is a democracy that we did not have in the previous regime. But the people who are in government are so focused on work and doing the work, improving the economy, that they're just doing what they need to do, instead of saying, you spoke against the government, you're going to prison. You spoke against the government, you're going. We're going to take you to the cells. That is a completely different regime. And we've seen an attitude from President Akahinde that is very different. He's not come in and say, I'm going to arrest everyone, although the opposition is saying they're being oppressed and they're doing that and the other. It's almost laughable when you hear people like Boman Lusambo coming up and saying you're being oppressive. And it's fascinating stuff just to watch. These were the people who are oppressing everyone else. These are the people who can go and do everything that they want to do. Listen, our marketeers can go to the market and sell things. We had our marketeers waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get their stuff. We had PF cadres stood there collecting money out of them. Umuntu ngakwatafika capital vena waisa tikuriamo. Because we were living in a time where people were just like, ubomba muibala ariamuibala. Now, even nangute valadiabo vena valiam kuriamo. We lived in a time that even people could not afford to go to school. That people just dropped out of the school. The government went and bought 1 million kwacha fire trucks on our behalf. Dollars. Fire trucks on our behalf. How many could that have fed? You know, the government has come in and they're trying to do the very best they can do for the people of Zambia. They're trying to put in policies that they're able to do it. We had this thing of the PF government saying, well, when I come into power in 2026, I will do that and the other. And I remember asking myself, well, why didn't you do it in the last 10 years you were in? The last year has been all about rebuilding what was broken. It's all about creating new things. And it was not, they've done a lot of rebuilding. They've done a lot of rebuilding in ministries. They've done a lot of rebuilding in embassies. They've done a lot of rebuilding in a lot of areas. People were partying. People were partying with our money. Do you know there were permanent secretaries, there were ministers who probably were never in offices for weeks because they had another job, because there's nobody checking up on them. Because there was no one, people were just left to do whatever they wanted to do with our money. We got ministers who are working. You got permanent secretaries who got to work at 7:30 and finish work at 7:30 p.m. in the evening. Because it's all about work, because it's not party after party. It's almost incredulous that you've got a government who came in and create these notions, party after party. We're partying with our money, partying with our resources. You had somebody who went to go and have cancer treatment, and they were not getting better because actually the medication that they were having was expired. And a lot of people will say, maybe we haven't seen the amount of change that we expected to see because the system was broken. The system was rotten to the core. And the government has come in and implemented so many things in the last year I'm planning to do even more. So in review of the one year anniversary of President Hakainde Hichilema taking office, we have seen an employment of 30,000. We've seen an employment of 30,400 teachers, and the majority of them have gone to rural areas. And young children in those rural areas are finally going to have some teachers. And not only are they going to have some teachers, that's going to improve the economy. You've got people spending power moving to those economy. When you get people spending power moving to rural areas, you got businesses that will follow. We've seen CDF increase from 1.5 million, 1.6 million to 26.5 million. And if all the people in the constituencies utilize this, they're going to see the benefit, they're going to see the growth in the economy. So for those people who have not utilized CDF, a lot of people, those people have not even bothered to see what CDF can do for them. I encourage you to ensure you speak to your councillors, you speak to your local council, you speak to your MPs, find out what you can do, find out what you can build. There are people who've got a skill. There are people who are carpenters in constituencies who are doing nothing. The people who are mechanics who are not doing anything. Find out what CDF can do. Find out if there are people in your constituency that you can make a cooperative with. Find out what you can do. These, my friends, it's all about going out there and really putting yourself out there and doing the things that you want will just not come to you. So those are the great things that we have seen, and also have seen the employment of 11,000 medical workers needed, absolutely needed. So that again, that is a lot. That is a lot, isn't it? We've seen, so 41,000 people are going to be involved in the economy. 41,000 people are going to be involved in the economy. But despite all of that, there's still other questions that need to be answered. The honeybee scandals, who really was involved, how many people were involved, and how are the investigations going? We got the gassing. The gassing, there's almost no news on that, and you might be forgotten to think it never really happened, because nothing is really being talked about. We need an update on that. What happened to the poor, to the innocent Zambian people who died during that awful period? That awful period. And what is the government going to do? What are the investigations going? So that is important as well, to ensure we follow up on that, and so that we understand it and we inform our people. The second bit, the president mentioned this when he was in the UK in August, in October, September. He mentioned the diaspora's 11th province. Now, somebody who's British who lives abroad can vote in their country, and they do that every year. I've got a friend of mine. He lives in at the moment, he resides in the Philippines. But every time there's a general elections, he can register and he can vote, and he can get a postal vote, or he can vote online. So the question is, as the 11th province of diaspora, what is the government really going to do about ensuring that the people in diaspora take part in the 2026 general elections? Because as we saw during the campaign, the passion that really exists in the diaspora, people want to take part. People remember it's still their home. It's still our home. We always think about home. We always talk to people back home, and we always want to take part. So the other element that the government really need to address is what they're going to do about ensuring that diaspora also take part in the next coming general election. So in the comment, if you can just, it'll be quite good to just get an idea. I will look at the comments after the show. What are you impressed? What are you impressed with the new Dawn government? What have they done that has impressed you? What have you done that has impressed you? Hi, Nora. What have you done that has impressed you? So, what has the new Don government that a policy that the new Don government have done that's not that has impressed you? What has the new Don government done that has not impressed you as well? What has the new Don government done that has not impressed you? What is a new? What did you expect the new Don government to do, but they haven't done it? What's the one thing you expected the new Don government to do, but they have not done it? If you can just put in the comments what you think. So that was my personal analysis of the new Don government. I feel they've done so many great things in the last year, and overall it's been a really productive year. It's still got few things to work on. It's still got few things to address. There's still got issues that need to be resolved. The conversation that need to be done. The corruption fight has to really, they have to review how they're going to fight the corruption fight in view of what I explained. A lot of transactions are not electronic, but they are physical. So that makes it very, very difficult to track. So what are they going to do? So in the comment, if you just put in there, what's the one thing that the new Don government has done that you're very, very impressed with? And what's the one thing that the new Don government has done that you're not impressed at all? If you just put that in the comment, I'll be able to see the comment later on. So I'll be able to see the comments later on. So this was my review of the first year of President Hakainde Hichilema and his UPND government. Overall, we're doing really well. 8 out of 10.